right, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Um, Welcome to our Why Activate Anywhere webinar for the Core 2025 application cycle. Really excited for your interest in this fellowship, and especially for those of you who are listening to this recording after the fact. Looking forward to getting any questions through email or otherwise. Um, so for today, we're going today's schedule be pretty quick. I'm going to give myself. Hi, my name is Jeffrey. I manage the Activate Anywhere community. I'm going to give a quick overview of what we do at Anywhere, and then we have two of our esteemed current fellows who will be giving some short stories and of their experience of the fellowship, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for any questions that you all have for us specifically about the experience. So I'll go pretty quickly through. Again, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Activate, we exist here to empower you all as scientists to bring your research to market. So, and the primary way we do that is by supporting you all through a 2-year entrepreneurial fellowship. We provide the premier fellowship experience for scientists who want to transition into entrepreneurship and develop their technology and develop through a company. So we do this primarily by providing the educational experience, the funding, and the mentorship and network and community to support you all in this endeavor. The way we do this is we exist primarily to support you all as individuals. So our funding is non-dilutive. We don't charge any fees or equity to participate in the program. We have a bias towards individuals who are building things, so building technologies that are transforming some physical infrastructure or some hardware versus software. And then lastly, we're looking for scientists who are looking to do some good in the world in terms of building something that's going to solve solve a big problem in the world, making the world a more sustainable, more resilient, or more equitable place. The way this works is kind of in 4 developments. Our fellows who participate in the program, you'll have the opportunity to embed into a community, and you'll have a community of staff, of supporters, and of course a cohort of your other fellows that you'll be going through this experience with. You'll be developing the entrepreneurial skill sets, the education to learn how to make this pivot from being a scientist into an entrepreneur. You'll get the funding and the support to iterate for those 2 years of the fellowship. And then lastly, get the support of the network that Activate provides to connect with the right partners and networks to bring your technology to the marketplace. I'm going to flash a slide here that just provides basically what I said in a little bit more detail. So what that funding looks like is $100,000 a year living stipend for those 2 years, as well as some funds for your company to do the R&D work for the technology. We have kind of a custom-built educational modules specifically targeted for those of you who are making this pivot from being a scientist into an entrepreneur. And then again, the community of founders, of alumni, of the staff and potential mentors and advisors that Activate provides to be able to support you on this journey. A little bit, and so again, to talk a little bit about the community. So Activate provides this fellowship experience through 5 different communities. Activate started in partnership with Lawrence Berkeley Lab out in Berkeley. So Activate Berkeley is our first community. Activate has since expanded out to Boston in 2019, and then more recently to New York, Houston, and this Anywhere community. So Berkeley, Houston, New York, and Boston, these are in-residence communities. The fellows that apply and join these communities are expected to relocate or be physically proximate to those cities. Part of the experience, again, of being fellows, building these companies together, being founders, is being co-located. Of course, for Anywhere, that's not true. Our fellows are distributed all across the country and connect primarily virtually. The reason for the expansion and decision to create a virtual community like the Anywhere one was motivated by a couple of reasons. One was during the pandemic and shifting a lot of the programming and education online, the organization learned that this was possible and that it was still effective and that the programming and community and education could still happen virtually. And with that, what it meant is that it unlocked the opportunity for us to provide this Activate Fellowship experience, not just to fellows that are located, kind of in Berkeley and Boston, but also to scientists and founders distributed all across the country. So the potential impact to be able to support the talent, innovation, and research that's coming out of all of the universities across the country was one of the exciting. It has been one of the exciting parts of the Activate Anywhere experience, and you'll be hearing some of the stories from the fellows here today. So again, what is specifically unique about the Anywhere experience compared to our in-person communities? First off, again, as I said, it's the flexibility. You do not need to relocate. You can build your company from wherever you are, wherever is best for you, for the company, for the technology, whether it's to stay close to, say, some advisors or your PI, or maybe just for personal reasons, there's a certain part of the country you'd like to live in and build your company from. We're here to support you with that. The experience of being your local community for Anywhere is actually quite national, because you're going to access a community of founders all across the country, the network and advisors and mentors and support partners that Activate has. You have access to all of those through the Anywhere experience. And then lastly, noting that this is going to be a hybrid community experience. Again, if all of the interactions that you had with your fellow cohort was virtual, that could be less effective. And so we recognize that. And so we tried to bring our fellows together in person once per quarter to supplement that experience. And so this is probably the most unique element of the Anywhere community compared to the other communities within Activate that I'd like to highlight, is that we, again, bring our fellows together for 3-day trips in person once per quarter. We visited primarily the Activate locations, New York, Boston, Berkeley, and Houston, but actually most recently got the opportunity to gather in Denver because we have a good now concentration of our existing fellows in one city. And what we do during these trips is, again, it's a lot of the social bonding, the time together with your community in person to be able to connect and share and bond, getting to do some company and lab tours of different fellows and alumni. And then lastly, the most important part is the opportunity, again, to do the peer learning, the connection, and sharing with your cohort members on these trips. Okay, now I'm going to get a little bit into just talking a little bit about the timeline and application to wrap my part up. So for those of you interested in participating in cohort 2025, that will begin on June 1st. Applications for that are out now and due October 23rd. Please visit the website, which has all the information that you need to think about whether or not this fellowship is the right fit for you, and also to start your application. But let me dig a little bit into what probably some of you are thinking about is like, can I even apply? So here I'm flashing the eligibility requirements here. The main things I'll highlight are we asked for, this is an opportunity for you to go full time on your company and your idea. So please, the purpose of the fellowship is to leverage this opportunity, the funding, the time, the support to be able to really commit yourself to this entrepreneurial endeavor. Secondly, just in terms of company stage, we're looking for those who are in development of technologies that are relatively early, where there's still some significant technical risk, where there's still some development to be done, where we can support in that. And then relatedly, if you've raised a certain amount, our limit here is 2 million, then you are ineligible. The whole purpose of these restrictions is really to highlight the fact that we want to be able to provide this fellowship experience to those who are in most need of the funding, the support, and the development. And this kind of relates to my last slide here, which is the number one question I often get for the Anywhere community is like, I live in San Jose and can I apply to Activate Anywhere? So we have a physical restriction here, which is to be eligible, you have to be living at least 70 miles away from an existing Activate location. If you do live within one of those locations, please apply to those. The benefit and proximate opportunity for you to be physically located with your community is important and part of the Activate experience. And then relatedly, the other reason why we don't want you to be in Anywhere if you live close to the community is our intention with the community, as stated, is that we want to be able to support applicants who don't live in these areas with already strong entrepreneurial support. We want to be able to support those who don't necessarily have that access and be able to provide that network through the Anywhere community experience. Of course, we have edge cases, so please reach out if you have any specific questions about whether or not your situation would benefit more from the Anywhere experience. All right. Now, enough speaking for me. I'm going to turn it over now to our two current fellows who are here on the call with us to share a little bit about their experience, and then we'll transition into Q&A after that. So I'm going to put Katie up. Yeah. Hi, Katie. Could you just give a quick little introduction, who you are, where you're from, what you do? Tell us a little bit about your experience applying to Activate, why you did it, and then what you're experiencing with Fellowship now.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Katie Jenkins, and I am CEO and co-founder of 6line Semiconductor. We are a spin-out of the University of Wisconsin-Madison, incorporated in September of 2022, and it focuses on, or is based around IP that was developed during my PhD work focused on materials science and engineering. And what 6line focuses on is really enabling this next generation of wireless connectivity and highly energy efficient logic and computing devices as well. With the explosive growth in the number of wirelessly connected devices, as well as just general electronics, this dramatically increases the performance requirements, both in terms of connection, speed, and then the energy usage of these devices is getting huge and is projected to be 25% of the total energy usage across the globe by 2040. So we combat these problems using novel nanomaterial carbon nanotubes. And this is what the company has been focused on. And we've been, since joining Activate, has really been able to grow more in the product focus of our business plan and technology, as well as do some very fundamental de-risking that we've been focused on recently. I originally applied to Activate because I did not know really what being an entrepreneur entailed. I think it's something that, at least with my background as being a PhD, it's not something that was very talked about or very transparent about what entrepreneurship means, or even what your day-to-day looks like, what skills are required, or what skills you need to grow even into. So it was a lot of unknowns that I had about entrepreneurship. And I learned about this program specifically through another Activate entrepreneur. And it seemed like a really valuable program, both in terms of the education, the classes, and the development and network that you get through the Activate experience. And I think one of the biggest things that has been most valuable, I mean, in addition to all of the things that I think Jeffrey also mentioned this, is the community. And I just really want to emphasize that it really is the network that you get plugged into in the Activate community that has been perhaps one of the most valuable pieces to me and to 6line's progress. Just being able to have mentors and technology experts that you can call upon as you're facing challenges that they've been through, that are very experienced, but then also being able to have a peer network of people who are going through the same challenges that you are going through, and are very fresh in their minds, and being able to talk with them about their problems and not feel like you are so isolated or tackling this huge problem or what can feel like a huge problem by yourself. So very excited that I was able to join the Activate network, and excited to hopefully talk with some of you about how valuable it is for your companies and your growth as well.
Thank you, Katie. And then Eli, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Thanks. So I'm Eli Hornstein. I am the CEO of Elysia Creative Biology. We are located in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we produce genetically engineered varieties of feed crops for livestock that suppress their methane emissions. Now, if you don't happen to be familiar with that problem, burps from cows is about 3 times worse for the climate than every airplane flying around out there. So, a really great opportunity to fix climate change, but also help farmers get rid of a reputation problem, make them some money, and try to do that in a way that's easy for everyone. Um, I did not come out of a university with this company. I had put some of my own resources into working on the tech, had set up a lab previously. And what really appealed to me about Activate is that they meet you where you are. They assess the person, they assess whether the company has a way forward, but they are there to help you figure out the right path to success. It's really been impressed upon me since joining the program as well that they have a type of open-mindedness, a type of willingness to support that is very, very hard to find, but that is frankly something we need a lot more of in the science entrepreneurship space. So it's been a very beneficial experience, even though I'm just a few months in. I would repeat something that Katie said, which is that coming in, I was attracted, of course, to the funding, to the prominence, but really what has surprised me is how valuable the intangible aspects of the fellowship are. So they have staff with all sorts of experience who are readily available to talk to you. That is really hard to find. The other fellows are not only excellent people, but put into a sort of a setting and a structure that makes it possible for you as a group of people doing really hard things to talk openly about shared challenges. And that too is hard to find. So, I can't speak highly enough of Activate. We came to them looking for a certain type of support, mentorship, funding, and all of that has been better than we expected so far. So, really happy to try to help answer any questions you might have, but happy to be here.
Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Katie. I think I'm glad we're recording this because I feel like really, you guys really capture the essence of the benefit of the Activate Fellowship there. So we're going to turn it over to some Q&A from you all in the audience. What I would ask you to do is please use the raise hand function on the Zoom. I'll call on you and then you can unmute yourself and ask your question. I would encourage questions that are primarily targeted towards our fellows that are here, more about the fellowship experience versus anything related to the application. Happy to answer application questions, but we'll have other forums to ask this as well. So who would like to be our first question?
Can I go?
Yes, go for it.
Yeah. Hello, this is Batman. I think one question that came to my mind when you guys talking about Anywhere, that why did you guys consider this Anywhere at first and didn't consider just moving to one of the locations that are there?
Who would like to start? I think both of you can answer.
I can.
Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, so we really wanted to start Six Line and grow Six Line from the beginning in Madison, Wisconsin, which is where my PhD was. It's where my PhD advisor and also co-founder is. And additionally, the infrastructure at UW was really key. So we needed to be able to have a place that had the intellectual resources, including my co-founder, who is a professor and is not going to be quitting his job anytime soon. So we needed to be close to him to leverage his experience and also leverage the team that we had already assembled or were assembling in process in the Madison, Wisconsin area, who all had strong ties here. And then, as I mentioned, the university also had the equipment that we needed for all of the experiments. So we really wanted to focus on at least the initial growth in Madison.
So I think my story is largely the same as Katie's, other than that I didn't have a specific desire to remain in North Carolina. I'm from here. I've been here for 35 years. That's enough. I would have been fine moving, but we by the time we applied to Activate, we had done a lot of our own work to get set up to do things that we needed to do. So we had found a lab, locally supported, one that would be really hard to replicate in an affordable way in any of the hubs. we have a local network here. So it was simply that there was no specific reason to move other than access to the community. And again, I think Activate Anywhere has come up with a lot of great ways to make the community come to you. So Anywhere was the first choice. We did apply to other communities, which was an option at the time, with a ranked order. I would have been, I think any of them would have been valuable, but Activate was definitely the best choice for us.
Thank you. All right, yeah, Jay Sebastian.
Hi, thanks so much for sharing your experiences with us. As Katie mentioned, I think that transition from PhD to CEO is a really big process, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that process is like and how meeting other fellows kind of like helped you become the CEO.
Yeah, I think, that's a great question. I think Activate does a really good job of helping you kind of switch your mindset, because it is a different mindset that you have to focus on, as opposed to, doing a PhD and you're very focused on day-to-day details, and you're also reporting to your PhD advisor. But if you were also at a different job, you'd also have a boss. So if you're not coming from a PhD background, similarly. But in entrepreneurship, it's very, you have to be an independent researcher, an independent leader, and you have to work to develop those skills outside of what you would have experienced in previous jobs or your PhD. And so that transition, I think, was something that I think my PhD advisor had done a pretty good job. I mean, talking to other fellows, I think he had already started to try and, develop my independent growth and mindset before I defended and before I did a postdoc and was able to come back. But I think Activate does a really good job of being able to help challenge you to switch that mindset into more of that independent growth. And then being able to talk to other fellows and having that network really helps you see how other people are approaching that switch and how they approach, leading and their companies, because there is no one right way to lead a company or be a manager. And so that's, I think, been very helpful in helping me find my own voice as a manager and voice as a CEO and path.
Again, I think Katie put it excellently. To me, the trait you need as the head of a company is trust in yourself and a lot of acceptance of risk. The way I have it in my head is to be a good CEO, you need the experience of your third postdoc and the overconfidence of a first-year grad student. So I think Activate will help you cultivate those things. They really do emphasize that it's about being decisive, making the best decision you can, and understanding that ultimately you have to act. So they'll be behind you. They'll encourage you not to be paralyzed. And ultimately that's it. The rest is just risk and what it means to be in business. But for you just got to take action, and they're there for that.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Yes, Elliot.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing your experience. It's nice to see you, Katie. But yeah, no, I've learned already through the experience, like that you kind of one day you have to wear your lawyer hat, then another day you have to wear your business hat, then the scientist hat. I was kind of curious, like, is the biggest benefit being able to access the staff members in the Activate Fellowship to talk about technical issues or how to think about business models or growing your business, or has it really been just interacting with the other fellows who are really kind of in the same spot, have a PhD or not, or are scientists that are kind of transitioning into this role? Just kind of curious to hear your thoughts there.
Sure, I can start this one. So Activate does have people on staff who will give you high level perspective. If you thought, well, do I need to take this to a lawyer? How much should I expect to pay a lawyer? Et cetera, and anything along those lines, they can talk you through it. We also bring a lot of questions like that just to the community. And there's virtual tools to talk to each other. And the value of being able to be really frank, and people, feeling that you trust each other enough that, you can keep things within the circle and you can actually talk about what hasn't worked, actually talk about numbers and specific providers for some of these things. That's really helpful. So we do a lot of that. But some of it also goes back to cultivating, the practices on your side to manage wearing those hats, where it won't always just be getting an answer to a question. It's learning to handle that balance.
Yeah, I would echo what Eli said as well, and good to see you too, Elliot. Yeah, I think it is definitely a transition, learning how to wear those different hats. And I think Eli put it well in terms of like the network is that you receive through Activate, of being able to reach out and ask those, questions and be really direct about it. You don't have to try and phrase it in a specific way to try and get the best answer. It's just at some point you figure out what you don't know, and you can take those questions about the different wearing a lawyer hat or wearing a CEO hat versus a researcher hat to the community, and ask those questions to learn from others' experience. As you mentioned, also talking to the staff, they have extensive experience. And then if you have a question or something that you're continuing to try and answer with one of those different, hats that you're wearing, Activate will introduce you or find you someone to talk to. And that's a really helpful next step to take out of, when you've exhausted the resources within the community, or even just wanting to get further opinions. They're very good at making introductions to help you continue to answer those questions and continue to build your skills wearing those different hats.
All right, thank you. Turn it over to Mickey.
Hey, Katie and Eli. Thanks for taking the time to chat. So I have a question about how this has affected your day-to-day as a founder. Could you tell me a little bit about how much of a time commitment being an Activate Fellow has taken out of y'all's roles, like leading technology?
I'll go again. So it takes zero time out of my role. It takes a number of hours to do the programmatic requirements. But all of that is things you should be doing for the company. So that's been my experience. I would add, I've found that between some of the structure that they provide and the fact that they do fund you to have a stable income, I find that participating in the program has made me a better leader of the company. It's given me a good feeling of responsibility, more willingness to use some structure and hold things accountable. So again, in that regard, it's only been complementary.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, there's for anywhere, we typically have like every 2-week programming that's all virtual for I think 2 hours every 2 weeks. And then there are classes and programs, especially within your first year, to help provide those kind of like, I think what it's called is the elements of entrepreneurship, or at least currently that's what it's called. To help provide kind of like a crash course on being an entrepreneur, and also help you establish those connections within your community and also within just the Activate community in general. Your cohort of 2025 would be 2024 would be the next cohort. Yeah, 2020. Yeah, whatever cohort year you would be. So yeah, there is time requirements, as Eli mentioned, and I think is mentioned in the application, but they're all beneficial, and with the time requirements that they have, as Eli mentioned, it's all things that you should be doing or are going to help you develop as a CEO and your company as well. So I have enjoyed and valued all of the time requirements and program requirements from Activate.
Thank you.
All right, turn it over to, is it Saad?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you both for answering all the questions. I recognize that the funding is for kind of 2 years of focused work, but I'm curious how much support you're getting for kind of long-term funding or kind of making the business itself sustainable long-term as well.
Yeah, I think that is the entire focus of the Entrepreneurship Fellowship. It's to help provide you, I mean, the dedicated time and resources to focus on the company, with the long-term goal of being able to set your company up for further dilutive funding or non-dilutive funding, depending upon your technology and your company path. Help provide you, the way to think through your company's business plan, and help set the company up for future success. So I think a lot of that is the focus of the Entrepreneurship Fellowship, at least from my perspective.
And I think to add maybe a little more explicitly, if your question means, do they help you get investment? Yes. There's 2 people who work at Activate who will consult with you and help you make connections if that is the right choice for you. There are people who will help you deal with business partnerships. There are people who help you deal with grants. So all of that feeds into what Katie was saying, that the entity is built to help you get that funding in place so that you leave and go up, not down, and not flat.
Thank you.
I'll ask a question. Katie and Eli, would love to hear, I think maybe to contextualize, like for the audience in terms of thinking about the application, like where you all were, like at the start, like at where most of the audience is, like right, September last year for Eli, 2 years ago for you, Katie. In terms of where you were thinking, like what stage of the technology you were when you were at the application stage, and then kind of like how the application helped support the growth of the company.
Yeah, I can start. I have a little bit more time, more time prior to the company or prior to Activate to, or more time within Activate to talk about. So prior to Activate, the company had just incorporated. I'd been working on the company and 6line for about a year at that point, but it was still very, there was a lot of technical de-risking that needed to be done. And then also we had this platform technology, but we were trying to really find, where the pull was in the industry. So we had started doing a lot of discovery interviews with people in the community, in the electronics community in general, and ecosystem, and going through the application process. I think also just even going through the application process, I think helped us refine our business plan and our business model, and really put some concrete numbers to things and get those concrete numbers. So that the application process was really useful just in general. And then since joining Activate, we have pivoted our business model, pivoted our plan for the entry for our products. We've done some pivots based on the learnings that we've gathered through Activate, and the community of people that we've talked to within Activate and within the electronics ecosystem in general. And we're continuing to pivot, but I think a lot of what I see the biggest changes both within the company, but also within myself as a leader and entrepreneur. And I think the growth that both Sixth Line and I have been able to change throughout the fellowship so far has been invaluable. And I'm excited to continue in my last year of the fellowship and then see where after the fellowship takes us.
So I submitted my initial application to Activate. It was due October 31st last year. I submitted at 11:59 p.m. Like I'm pretty sure I took a screenshot to make sure I could get it in. So I was on Halloween night. It was also the first week of our national I-Corps program, which for anyone, there's probably several of you who've done it, it tends to go into the evening. So it was a really busy time. It was a lot of pressure to get things done. And that for me came in the context that about 5 months before putting that in, I had gone full-time on the company with very little funding. I was putting in my own money, had a little bit of local funding. We had a lab, but it felt like I was in a place with a lot of business risk, and not a guaranteed path forward, certainly. And something that is interesting to me is that over the several months between that application in coming in and actually getting the fellowship, I continued to make progress in a couple of ways. Still always felt like a fight. But something that was important to maybe think about is that was a topic of conversation as I was going through my interviews with the Activate folks, and an important sign. Thanks, Rick. An important, I think that was an important sign for how things would go if I did get the fellowship. That showing that I was able to marshal some other resources, towards this end, meant that we would do well if we did get the support from Activate, and that has been certainly true. I won't reiterate what Katie said, but you obviously can get a lot done as soon as you start the program.
Thank you. All right, any final questions from the audience?
Hello, this is Huam, and thank you for sharing all of your journey today. So my question is, I really wonder about how different is the before and after your mindset inside as a CEO or some researchers, and also wonder about how different is before and after the Activate.
Good question.
I think I talked about this, so I'll let you go, Kate.
The question was around your mindset change with Activate. Was that the question?
Activate and or currently it's every time Eli already said it that it's every time every sequences I always have to learn about the new things, and then it's sometimes very amateuristic. It's not professional except the research and development setting, but every day I change my mindset. It's very hard to keep in my inside at the beginning mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my question is something like that. It's like very high level question about that.
Yeah, I would definitely say the Activate Fellowship has changed my mindset and how I approach research. I mean, how I approach research, but also how I approach our company. I think it's really emphasized as Eli mentioned, the need to make a decision and not be as paralyzed with, really trying to, flesh out all of the possibilities before you make a decision for your company. I think you need to be very thorough about, making decisions, but at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. So you have to do the best with the information that you're given. And Activate has done a really good job at, I think, helping us find, or helping me, just speaking from my own experience, helping me make those decisions and figure out when I've gotten enough information to make a good decision for the company. So it's kind of shifted my mindset around from research of where you need to, in my PhD, where I felt like I needed to understand all, all of the scientific literature before I could, make a forward-thinking decision about where my research would go or the technology. But with being a CEO, you can't do that. You just don't have the time. So it's a lot of leveraging. I do a lot more leveraging of a network than I did in my PhD. And I think that's been a mindset shift, is instead of a PhD where you might be focused on one thing and being an expert in that one thing, and not leveraging the people around you as much, or feeling like you need to do everything yourself in your PhD. Whereas in a CEO, I'm very much like, I don't know how to do this. Who does? Or how do I find this information, and use that information to move the company forward?
All right. Okay. So I think to wrap up, Katie and Eli, what I love, maybe just to kind of add some final color to this whole experience. Thanks so much for sharing with us about how like Activate and this Anywhere experience has transformed you all as entrepreneurs, as well as supporting your companies. We'd love maybe on like more of the I don't know how to define a structure, but basically, like, is there like a short like story or moment or experience that felt like uniquely like this is Anywhere, this is Activate really doing something like this happened for you? As you're thinking about this, just reminding the audience again, as we conclude, like, please go to activate.org/apply to look at all of the information about the application for Core 2025. If you have any questions, that's the best place to start, and also to start your application. We're really looking forward to seeing all of those. And then who wants to start? Katie?
I can start. Something that I feel like really made me, really kind of like summed up or exemplified some of the Activate experience to me was actually in the Anywhere community, we have Activate buddies, or, from different cohort levels, or different cohort years. And so my buddy this year actually is, in the cohort 2023, and she is like, she is a powerhouse. I look at her and I'm like, it's amazing, what she's been able to accomplish. And it's very much like we have, bi-weekly or, every 2-week meetings or so, where we just talk about things that are going on in our companies and our lives. And it was one of these check-ins. It was just like, we both had we'd been going through different challenges that we hadn't talked with each other yet about. But then like we were talking and we were like, oh, you felt this way? Like I felt this way. Like, how did you end up, feeling this way, going through these things, when I look at you and I see, just an amazing person. And I think it's just having that community of people who are going through these same things and feeling similar, feeling potentially similar, doubts or issues that they think are, really, that really stopping them, or potentially stopping them, and being able to have that community of people going through those same things and learn from their experiences and have that network of support, I think really, to me, kind of sums up what I have really enjoyed about Activate.
I think the moment for me was the first time, and this occurred last month. The first time that I saw money leave the bank account for paychecks. So coming in, I'd had people as contractors. I had worked with people before, but I had no employees. I didn't know how to employ people. I didn't know how to find people. And like from the first day of Activate, I I recruited help from the program for that. So I also have a buddy. She's the CTO of a more mature company. She actually sat in on a couple of my interviews to give some perspective and some feedback on how I was doing at interviewing. I was asking people in the fellowship, how do you handle your offer letters? How much do you pay people? How do you handle equity? Again, I was using their money to pay for these employees, but I was also using all that expertise to actually get a team working and to figure out how to run it. And that really crystallized, again, the first time all of a sudden I realized, well boy, like we're actually a company now with people who are, getting paid to get our work done. And that was a great moment, of course.
Awesome. Thank you again so much, Katie, Eli, for sharing with us about your experiences and your stories and sharing so openly and really exemplifying what the fellowship experience is like for those in Activate. And thank you all so much for attending. And we really look forward to seeing your applications come through in the next month or so. So please reach out if you have any questions. Other than that, we'll conclude the webinar. Bye, everyone.